All right. Welcome to all who have come here this afternoon for the celebration. Special welcome to Kent's mother, his brothers and sisters who are here, his kids and grandkids, and some of their friends from back in the Holland days. Welcome. When I volunteered for the farewell committee, I really didn't like the name. It seemed kind of morbid. So when I met with Kent and Elizabeth, I showed them the flyer that many of you have seen of the celebration of service. Kent's question was, this is going to be a fun night, right? Not just all tears? My wife Linda's response was, it's going to be more like a roast of Kent tonight. At the time, he was okay with that. We'll see what he says in another hour or two. And I tried, Kent. There should be a lot of laughs. There's going to be some tears. You are here, after all. But hopefully not sad tears, but happy tears as we look back on the relationships that you have built and the work that you have done here. You're retired, but that doesn't mean that the relationships have to end. And as a wise man will tell you in a few minutes on a video, your work doesn't have to end either. Okay? So let's go back to the beginning. Now, don't worry, we're not going all the way back to Fremont. We don't have time for ancient history. We're going back to some time during the school year before Kent was called. Now, Linda and I like to take some credit for Kent and Elizabeth coming here, so the story is from our perspective and my memory. Our daughter Amber sang in the Calvin Christian High School choir. And at different times during the year, that choir would go to different churches to sing. So one night, off to Ivanrest CRC we went. Now the bulletin said that a seminarian was preaching that night. But when this guy came out, I'm like, oh boy, has this guy been in sem for like 20 years? I mean, 8 years prior to this, we had called the seminarian to be our pastor, and that guy was like 22. This guy was twice that age. But we gave him the benefit of the doubt. So we listened to his preaching when we liked what we heard, and we also liked what we saw, because Amber, Linda, and I like our visual aids. So this is what we saw on the pulpit that night. A table, a couple of chairs. Come to the table. So having liked his preaching, we gave his name to my father-in-law, Al Hofstra, who was on the Lee Street Search Committee at the time. And a little while later, Kent was going to preach here. So we came here that night, and we went down to our pew, which at the time was over here by the organ. And what I remember most was looking on the pulpit to see this. That's what I'm thinking. Did we give the name of a guy who only has one sermon? No. In between these two times, we saw Kent preach. The search committee had done some work.
We did after we made our contact with Elizabeth and found out that he was going to preach at fellowship. Then we decided that the one way we're going to hear him preach is to go to fellowship. So a good group of our search committee went to that service. And after the service, we are walking down, going to their lobby toward Kent and so on. And all we were getting is, he's the man, you know, and getting the high sign. So in our getting downstairs and cornering Kent, we got to talk with him, and we got to talk with Elizabeth and kind of build up our relationship. Because, like I said, I knew Hallward, but it was a different side of it, but it gave us something to talk about, you know. I over the years, I've said that Elizabeth was a good watchdog over Kent. And you had to break that seal to get any information about having him preach. But we did get it through, and it was what it was supposed to be. So,
So then the committee decided to call him?
yeah, after other meetings because the others had gone to other places and made their appeal, but the group from fellowship was the ones that were really high on the Kent, and so they decided to make Kent the candidate there. Yeah. So.
And you knew there was a little competition with other calls, so.
Well, yeah. But we just wanted to emphasize that we knew that he was the man, and so.
So you wrote letters to that effect too?
Yes, yeah, right, yeah. Didn't want to make it a plain dyed-in-the-wool call. We wanted the reaction from our committee, and a number of us wrote letters and emphasized how we thought he would be the man. Yeah. So.
And through the years, you were happy with your decision?
Oh man, yeah.
So do you have any wishes for him in the future? Now that he's going to be leaving Lee Street?
I'm looking for a place for him. Not to, there are areas in the ministry that he would be very acceptable. Not to make a workload of it, but there's life after retirement, and there's life in the church after that. And I found that, so, yeah.
So I'm sure Al didn't mean anything by it. But how does it feel to go from Kent, you are the man, to Kent, he'd be acceptable? Later, a decision was made and Lee Street decided to call Kent to be our pastor. This was one of 4 calls that Kent received, 2 from Holland, 1 from Kalamazoo, and 1 from Lee Street. After a unanimous vote around the kitchen table in Holland, the Lord blessed Lee Street when Kent and Elizabeth and their girls chose Lee Street. Now in this case, Lee Street didn't just call Kent, but we called Kent and Elizabeth and their 3 daughters, Sarah, Emily, and Molly. Pictured here. Much of the program tonight will be about the changes that have happened since Kent's been here. The family has changed a bit over the years. Kent, I know you taught phys ed, but somewhere along the line, your girls picked up on math, as they added Joel, who proposed in the church bell tower, to Sarah, Seth with Emily, and Brad with Molly. But as good as you girls were at addition, you excelled at multiplication. As along came Elliot, Grace, Caleb, Isaac, Wesley, Leah, Charlotte, Micah, and Lewis. And this is their current family picture taken this summer. Kent and Elizabeth, it's clear that you're blessed. We at Lee Street have heard the story of the stressful weekend of moving. On Saturday, Sarah was moved to Calvin College for her first year in college. On Sunday was a trip to Detroit, where they put Emily on a plane for Ecuador, where she would spend her junior year of high school as an exchange student. And on Monday, the move from their longtime home in Holland to the parsonage. Now, many of you know what happened that fateful night. Kent somehow managed to crush the legs of one of our members, Martin Becker. I first heard about this when at the fire station, the red phone rang with a call for the rescue squad. You have a man that's been hit by a moving truck in the parking lot. Nowadays, everything is taped in some way or form. So our crack IT team did some checking, and sure enough, they came up with a video shot by a neighbor of that night.
I want to get used to this new video camera we just bought. Cool, what do you want to tape? Well, it looks like the new creature's moving in today. We should tape that. Something always goes wrong when people move themselves. He's moving himself? Wouldn't you think the church would do that for him? Well, it's Christian Reformed. That means a bunch of Dutch people. Hope he knows how to drive that thing. Keep the tape running. Maybe we'll get something for America's Funniest Home Videos. I'm a little worried about that guy backing up. I hope he gets out of the way in time. Oh no, I think he backed into him. Hey, driver, you hit him.
Martin, what happened? Martin, you okay? Martin. Oh, I'm sorry, Martin. You all right?
Not so good. I think I broke something. Didn't you hear me say stop?
No, I really couldn't hear you, Martin. I had the radio on. I was listening to the Tigers. They were behind Martin late in the game. And they just went ahead. Great news.
Oh, that's not fun. I was yelling for you to stop.
I'm sorry. That's probably why in driver's ed, we don't allow the kids that have the radios on in the car just for that reason.
Oh, good idea. Say, Kent, do you think you can get me out of here?
You're wedged in, Martin, but I think with a little effort I can pull you out of here a little bit.
Hey, maybe you should pull the truck away from him first.
Good idea, Martin. You're wedged in there. Let me pull the truck ahead a little bit. Don't go away. Stay there. Martin, you okay? Oh man, I'm sorry, Martin. I'm really sorry. No, man, I'm sorry, but I only have all left on the rental. Look, it's another $20 I gotta pay for this thing. So, I'm sorry, but I gotta get this thing unloaded.
Kent, make sure you keep your receipt for moving expenses.
Yep. Yep, I'll do that, buddy. We'll take care of the money part.
Marty, you okay? Marty, Ryan Upton, are you okay? Yeah. Oh, I think I broke something.
I might have some sore legs there, Martin. So what happened?
I was helping Pastor Kent, and he backed into me.
Pastor Kent, is he here?
Yeah, he's in back of the truck.
Oh, hi, Pastor Kent. I'm Brian Elbrick. I'm
Brian.
the commissioner here. How are you?
Meet you.
Oh, I hear you're back.
Ryan, stop talking so much. Let's take care of our patient.
Mary, I'm gonna have to move some of your legs just to straighten them out, okay, bud?
Hang tight, just hang tight. One more move here, just breathe through it.
All right, keep them on the backboard.
All right, we have one more move here. All right, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. All right, 1, 2, 3.
All right, all set, Marty? We're gonna go take you away now.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Do you think they'll keep this new pastor after what he just did? What church do they have? Did you see what's on the sign out front?
I've got just one suggestion for your next move. So more about Kent. As a former phys ed teacher, he's always been an active person. Early on, there were pickup basketball at the Croc Center. There were gym nights for basketball and volleyball. And his current passion is playing pickleball. He played on the Lee Street 40 and over softball team long enough to qualify for the 55 and over league. And once he and a few of the others of us decided to hang up our ball cleats, the Lee Street Golf League was started that Kent has participated in ever since, with his brother Alan as his partner. Every year, Kent would threaten, I don't know if I'm going to play next year. The competitive nature still lives in Kent, and he's frustrated at times when his game is not as good as he would hope. The rest of us, however, are quite entertained by his game.
Hey, Ken, this is Lake Street Golf League. We just wanted to thank you for all the years that you helped put this together for us, and we can out here and have some fellowship and good time. And we hope in retirement that you can finally win the long drive contest and take $1 from people on the closest to other than me. So, and just have a great time. I hope from now on all your 20-foot putts sink and you're driving straight down the fairway. Thanks again.
Kent's dislike for water is also well known, unless, of course, he's on top of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the guy can walk on water. But if you put him in a boat with a fishing pole in his hand, he is a happy man.
So, Ken, here we are, Lodge 88.
It was another great day out on the lake.
I could not believe the fishing today. How was your boat, Ricky?
Really, really good.
Really?
Trust you again.
Really?
Yes.
I could not believe it. John, I think at one time he had counted, I bet 15 that were over 28, 29-inch walleye.
We had some dandy days out there, but I know your boat was struggling just a little bit.
It was a good day.
Well, Kent's still out there. He's trying hard, but he handed over his fish.
Yeah, but why don't you pull them up, Ricky? If you gave them to you, why don't you hold up what Ken's catch was for the day?
That was Kent for the day.
Wow.
And then Raj and I.
Yeah, why don't you hold them up? I'll hold your pole, John.
Oh my God. We had a real good day. We had no problem catching fish. Kent, he's still out there struggling. But we're glad for him, and we always have a great time with him.
Yep.
So-
Looking forward to August.
Looking forward to going again.
I'm not going to talk smack about fishing, Ken. You know who wins every time.
Not happening. Well, after all this, we all chipped in because we're looking forward to going again with you. And we bought you a new pole. We saved all our money.
That is a great looking pole.
You might want to close in on this one because this is a heavy-duty Tweety Shakespeare rod and reel.
No, not a Tweety Bird
Oh,
special.
yeah, it's a Tweety Bird special. So Kent, congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah,
And,
congratulations.
We're
Love
looking
you
forward.
guys.
We're looking.
Ultimate boat.
You bet. We love you guys, and we're looking forward to you using this pole here. And hopefully, in another month, we'll be back out on the lot.
You're an
out on the
excellent
lake.
captain, not only at Lodge 88, but on Monday mornings at Diamond Springs.
Have a great retirement, Kent. We look forward to fishing with you.
As these pictures show, Kent could be found at some point visiting almost all groups in the church and can be found at almost all events that are at least related. As we said earlier, it was not just Kent that we called. Elizabeth has been very active also. Here with more about Elizabeth is Barb Balkema.
Can you hear me? Now you can hear me. Okay, Kent, you're just a super guy. I really think that, but really you're not much without Elizabeth, who has always been such a part of your ministry. You just do everything together, and we're just so thankful for the both of you. So who doesn't love Elizabeth, really, right? I mean, everybody, I see your grandkids here, yeah. She a good grandma, you guys? Yeah, very good grandma. She makes great snacks, doesn't she? She always does. I know. So we just really appreciate you so much, Elizabeth. And we appreciate the way you have always opened up your home to people. I'm sure many have been there from this group of people. People may visit, and you'll turn around and have them over for dinner. You're always hospitable and caring to people, and you reach out. And that's just a wonderful aspect of who you are. You're a servant. I know that a lot of what Kent does, you are behind the scenes serving, and you're often found in the kitchen. If you're not in your kitchen being hospitable, you're in the kitchen at church, making food, cleaning up, doing whatever you can to make things go well. And that's just been just a beautiful part of who you are. I see Jesus in you all the time. You're friendly to everybody, and you've been a dear, dear friend to many people. So I think there's 2 videos now that are going to be shown to one of the Bible study you have been in for a very long time, and also from Dorothy Gulch. Just people whose lives you have touched among the many here at Lee Street Church.
Okay, Elizabeth, who would have thought 18 years ago that you and I talked about getting a Bible study together? And here we are 18 years later and still doing it. Every morning early, you invited us into your house. It started with Judy and me and you and Betty. And Betty was with us for 8 years, and then she decided that she needed to do something different, and we invited Sherry with us, and she's been with us for 10 years. 10 years all together now, the 4 of us, once a week. It was once a week in the mornings. 6:30, we were there at your house. You always were there for us. You always had coffee for Judy and Sherry and water for me and for you. And we just had a wonderful time. We learned so much from the Bible, in depth, more than we ever thought. And some of our favorite authors we repeated several times. Not the same book, but the same author. And you were a wonderful host, and you were always there to make us feel welcome. And we grew to love you more and more and love each other more and more. And we were very vulnerable. Many times we talked about things that no one else knows about. And it was just a safe place. And I want to thank you for that. And I hope you have many more good years of Bible study. Maybe not with us, but I'm sure you will have Bible study with other people or yourself. And thanks for helping us grow.
Elizabeth, many years ago when we started this Bible study, I never dreamt that it would become this important to me. I have learned so much about God and His love for us all, and grown in my faith and love for Him. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to grow. I will miss this. I also thank you for the coffee you so kindly provided, your home, and most of all, your knowledge of God's Word and your friendship. I will treasure this for the rest of my life. I pray that you and Kent will have many great years of retirement. Love you both.
Like many other women here at Lee Street, I have the honor of calling you friend. For the past 10 years, I have had the privilege of being welcomed into your home in the early morning hours before our workday began to study God's Word. This meant that even earlier in the morning, you would be up, shoveling the driveway and sidewalks so that we would arrive safely inside to where coffee was waiting for us, even though you never drink coffee. While we tried to share the responsibility of Bible study leader equally, often it is you who step forward ready and willing to take on this duty. Elizabeth, I marvel at the way in which you bring glory to God and joy to others with the gift of friendship and hospitality. As well as a friend, you are a role model and mentor to me in how you live your faith. Years ago, you introduced our Bible study group to one of your favorite authors, Bob Goff, and I'll end with a quote of his that is an accurate description of your friendship. Bob Goff writes, "You know what it is about someone that makes them a friend? A friend doesn't just say things, a friend does. Thank you, Elizabeth, for doing for me." As you leave our church, but never these friendships, I want you to know, friend, that you are loved.
Hi, Elizabeth. I want to say I'm glad you're my best friend. You're family to me. I met you when Bash started. That's when I first met you, and it was rocky for a little bit, but then we got to know each other, and you became family to me. You did stuff. You were there when I went to the hospital. You were there my ups and downs when I lost my jobs. Got my jobs. You've just been there for me, and I'm gonna miss you, and I hope you guys have a good retirement. I hope you guys have fun when you go out on your trip. I hope we have many more good times together. But most of all, you're family to me, and I'm gonna miss you.
Along with those groups, another group that you've been a part of is the Sit and Stitch. And right away from the beginning, you opened up your home, and we met, and there have been very many ladies from the church that have come and just sat and did our thing together with you. We have something for you at the next show that we're going to give you, but for right now, I'd like Arlene Helder to come up, and she has something written out that is from the hearts of all of us that are regulars at Sit and Stitch, and how much we appreciate you.
Oh, God, I'm in a ball. It's been so long since I've been here. But it's not about that. Get you guys together. Sit and Stitch. What a fun group. Just a bunch of really neat ladies that were so welcomed into Elizabeth's home. And we just have really, really good memories. And just, that'll never leave us. So, oh, I'm sorry. So I have some words that some of our group have shared with me. And I just want to share some of those things here, and then a couple of thoughts of my own. One of them shared a little poem, Vicki Van Wingerden, and it's called A Tribute to a Phenomenal Woman. Elizabeth, God's kingdom needs more people like you who have a precious gift which comes from the heart. You give so much, so often, in so many ways, in special ways, in loving words of comfort, in happy words of praise, in taking time to talk a while, in sharing other people's joys, in helping when you can, your special way of giving love. Thank you for sharing your gifts with so many people. Please know that you are loved. And it was just a really neat time, all of us together. Our small group that we shared with stitching, knitting, crocheting, any kind of handwork, quilting, whatever. Elizabeth kind of did a little bit of a lot of stuff, so she was very knowledgeable. But there's some traits that I love about Elizabeth that will always stick with me. And the first one that so many of the girls mentioned was she was thoughtful of others. And that is the truth, because she just was not thinking of herself, and she wanted to make sure others were taken care of and cared about. And one of them was with our dear playmate. She wanted to learn how to knit, and sure enough, she was welcomed very much. But who but Elizabeth could sit next to someone that spoke no English and teach her how to knit? Elizabeth did it. And also many times where there was mistakes and things that went out of whack a little bit, no, just give it to Elizabeth. And she was so patient and sat down and just was so giving. And it just is a big picture of her, how she just really cared about others. And she also was so sharing with her home and all the different ways she invited us into her home. And she was also a great hostess, and so many other people have said that too. Oh my goodness, her little kitchen table was snacks galore, homemade. Her little crunchy, what do you call that little mix? That little mix that she made. Yeah. Anyway, and her caramels that she made that Kent wrapped in wax paper. Oh my, everyone had those caramels? Oh my goodness. She was just a hostess with the Moses, and she blessed us every time, and we just loved being there. And her home was so beautiful and cozy, and she was waiting for us to come with a smile on her face. And she was also so loving, and you'd come in the door, and she would want to know how you were, how's your family, what's going on. Just Elizabeth all the way, just really, and it was so genuine from her heart. And she was also, so many people said she was just a good maker of goodies, all her recipes and her cooking and just always just such a Susie homemaker. I'll always just remember that about you, but just more about how you shared with all of us so lovingly. And so I just want to thank you for all the many experiences we had with you and chats and talks, and hopefully we can continue to. And we love you.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you, Arlene. And it's kind of funny, Kent, you're getting roasted like crazy, and she has all these nice things being said about her. I'm sure it's coming for you yet, too. But I think now we're going to see some pictures, first of Elizabeth again, and her involvement in the church, and then of both of you. So anyway, we do love you both. Thanks.
as Barb said, you never knew how much having music played during pictures made them seem to go faster. Guess that one's on me. Now we move on to Ken as a pastor. To start, our men's quartet recorded a song that I'm told was sung at his installation.
The first song we're going to sing tonight is Here I Am. And for those of us who weren't here at Pastor Kent's inauguration, this is a song that was sung then. Ordinary. Oh yeah, it's not inauguration. This song was sung when Pastor Kent was ordained, and so it seems appropriate even now as he goes on from here that we will sing Here I Am for whatever God has in store for him.
By the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people's cry, all who dwell in deepest sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of snow and rain, I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak
In his 21 years here, Kent has performed 115 weddings, the first of which was Rich DeLynn Steenstra, who now have 3 children, 2 of whom are in college. He has done 134 baptisms. He has led 177 young and old through professions of faith. He has performed 145 funerals, bringing promise of salvation to countless relatives of those who had passed. As I said, Rich and DeLynn were the first wedding that Kent performed. I left this picture in because it looks like they're back at the sound table in the back and signing the marriage certificate. And I left it in because it looks to me like Kent's asking somebody, am I doing this right? In the case of Rich and Lynn, and probably many others, he has performed the marriage of the parents, baptized their children, and led those same children through profession of faith. The faithfulness of God to his people has been shown through his work. There have been many changes to the sanctuary in the last 21 years. Early on, the screen that we have used so often tonight was put up, not without some controversy. About 4 years ago, after finding ceiling tiles lying on pews after falling from the ceiling, thankfully when no one was here, we did a remodeling project. Pews were moved to one side so scaffolding could be raised to install our beautiful new ceiling, after which old carpet was removed and previously hidden hardwood floors were sanded and finished. Then pews were moved to the other side and the process was repeated. In addition, there were new guts for hanging lights, new carpet, and new paint was also added. Obviously, this was a weeks-long project, so where do you worship? I'm sure you've all heard the saying, when life gives you lemons, put up a tent. So that's what we did. Kent loved our tent worship, and we have repeated it every year until this year when COVID stopped us. Another thing with changes over the years, again, with some controversy, has been our music. From the Jesus and Me Jam Band, a Christian rock band that took part in one evening service a month, which was then offset by an all-heritage Sunday morning service. The addition of praise teams and praise bands. These bands could take many forms, from 3 guitars to brass and drums, strings, organ, piano, keyboard. I don't know the definition of an orchestra, but I think we border on one at times. Dan Ensing finds a way to make all the combinations work. Our church is blessed with a variety of musical gifts and members who are willing to share those gifts. In my mind, Kent, you have mentioned a song that you loved growing up in Fremont, and our men's quartet taped it for you. If I'm wrong about it being a favorite, oh well, it's in the program now.
The second song that we're doing today for Pastor Kent is He Leadeth Me. It's pretty obvious. It's really the words we want to leave with you, Pastor Kent, that he will continue to lead you as he's led you to this point in life and the things you're doing. And another thing to know about this passage is there was a pastor in the early 1800s that wrote this and penned it out in a very short period of time based on that little phrase, He leadeth me, in Psalm 23. And here that was almost the last series that Pastor Kent, that you did here. It's Psalm 23. And so here's also, He leadeth me. Here we go.
He leadeth me, O blessed thought, O words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me.
couple of Kent's hobbies have changed over the years also. Early on, the Rotten family would go up to Big Star Lake for a week at the cottage. For those of you who have never been at Big Star Lake, it is a beautiful place. Clear water, sandy bottom to the lake, and a nice beach. 1 or 2 days of those weeks, as Elizabeth and the girls would head out to the water, Kent would go out the back door of the cottage, down the driveway, across the street, past a sign like this, to forage through the woods, brush, and fields. Now you're thinking, morel mushrooms? Oh, those are delicious. No, he is in search of that elusive species, the lost golf ball. He would also, in the fall, frequent a golf course just north of town that you could see along the highway. He would park in a neighboring subdivision, walk past a sign like this, to do his hunting. Hey, do I heckle you when you're up here? That course was fertile ground, as he would often come out with over 200 golf balls. I believe this hobby stopped after he was tossed from both of these courses for trespassing. I think he decided that didn't look too good on his resume. But then what do you do with all those golf balls? Well, he started a very time-consuming hobby to solve the problem: buying and selling on Craigslist. Where else could you get $15 whole for a 5-gallon bucket of golf balls? Now, I'm sure many pew sitters wondered about the many hours of office time being spent on Craigslist. But I was not one of them for 2 reasons. First, everybody knows that pastors only work on Sundays. And I was sure he was not doing this on Sunday. Second, I needed a new ball glove. And about a week after giving him this assignment, he called and said he had found not any glove, but an autographed glove. I don't know who Darquisha is, but she did indeed sign her glove. In the last 10 years, 3 big changes involving the enfolding of members from Rogers Heights, Roosevelt Park, as their home churches closed, and members of the Spanish church as they opened and grew and became part of Lee Street. Here to speak to what Kent has meant to them is Barb DeVries, Pete Visser, and Israel Alvarado.
Hello. On behalf of those of us who came from Rogers Heights, I want to thank Pastor Kent and Elizabeth for their friendship and leadership over the past 9 years. The verse I will use to guide my thoughts is Zephaniah 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with his love. He will exalt over you with singing. In keeping with CRC tradition, I have 3 points. The first, the Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. I was involved in the Rogers Heights meetings with Pastor Kent. It was a difficult and emotional time when a congregation is faced with the reality that they should close their beloved church building, disrupt their current church family, and join another ministry and congregation. For those of us who 15 years earlier had closed 36th Street Church, it was a very disheartening time. It felt like history repeating itself. It felt like failure. But we know God has a plan, and he does not fail. The first meeting we had with Pastor Kent, the then chair of Classis Granville, I remember I was sitting next to him. I had never met him before. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was certainly expecting some "you shoulds." Instead, he was quiet, He listened to our concerns, our fears, our wonderings of what to do, how should we proceed. He offered little advice other than that if we decided to dissolve, what the CRC guidelines were. In the subsequent meetings, Pastor Kent was empathetic, solemn, and again, listening. He understood the depths of our despair and the sadness and the feelings of loss. Second, he will quiet you with his love. Then Pastor Kent offered an invitation, not an assumption, that Lee Street would welcome anyone who wanted to transfer there. Lee Street would be willing to take custodianship of the membership papers of those who needed time to find a new worship home. Lee Street would assume the care of our shut-ins. Lee Street would hold the ministerial credentials of our pastor until he found a position. On November 10, 2011, Classis Granville, Reverend Kent Rotman, Chair, adopted the motion to approve the disbanding of Rogers Heights Christian Reformed Church and Lee Street Christian Reformed Church loving invitation became reality. And third, he will rejoice over you with gladness. Over the next year, many of us personally accepted the invitation to join Lee Street. Pastor Kent, Elizabeth, and the people of Lee Street made us feel like the loved family and not like orphans. Pastor Kent often commented on how blessed Lee Street was to have received the infusion of the Rogers Heights people, how we brought not only financial resources, but also our personal talents and helping hands. We were welcomed immediately into the church's work and grafted into congregational life. We were not treated like transplants. With only a few backward glances, we joyfully became the church at Lee Street. I speak for all of us when I say, thank you, Pastor Kent and Elizabeth. Maybe the Rogers Heights people were just what Lee Street needed, but for sure you were what we needed. Pastor Kent and Elizabeth, we send you with love into the next phase of your life's ministry. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pete Bissell, and I am proud to represent the Roosevelt Park group of Jesus followers that merged our history with Lee Street's history. Roosevelt Park was a very unusual church. It had the merger of Granville Avenue and Bethel, two longtime congregations. So we were a church that was primarily white and Dutch, led by an African-American pastor, serving a primarily Hispanic neighborhood. And so for 20 years, we did that diligently. And about 5 years ago, actually, this taping, Bethel, Granville Avenue, and all their histories, Roosevelt Park, wound up closing its doors. That left a lot of us with no church home. Personally, that was a time for me that was very rough, because in May I lost my dad. In June, I lost my best friend. And in July, I lost my church. And so we at Roosevelt Park needed a home. Pastor Kent and Elizabeth were very gracious. I can remember very well the first meetings that we had here at Lee Street. The warmth and openness, the welcoming, the invite to come and join you was amazing. And we remember well a verse that Pastor Kent used was Romans 8, verse 1. Therefore now there is no condemnation for those that are in Christ Jesus. That gave us a great deal of hope and of joy. And so we joined, a large group of us joined this church. We were, in a very real sense, kind of like orphans and wanderers and refugees, looking for that church home, and we found it here. Pastor Kent's leadership as the shepherd here, as well as the leadership in the church, and so many familiar faces from our past because we were close by in neighborhoods. Bumping into my kindergarten teacher, my second grade teacher, May Mulder, and my Little League coach, Ron Hofstra, and so many people I knew and loved. And I speak for all the individuals who come from Roosevelt Park that we were warmly welcomed, and Pastor Kent made us feel at home. His openness, the emotions that he shows, his caring, his love for people is very, very obvious and very real. I have this image in my mind because as Christians, we do not say goodbye, ever. I have an image of a road, and we walk the road with our shepherd, Pastor Kent, and Elizabeth. And now there's kind of a fork in the road. We both go a different direction for now. But that road, once again, does merge eventually. And it merges to the cross. So Pastor Kent and Elizabeth, we do not say goodbye. We say until we see you again, and we hope that's soon and many times. But we will forever remember your graciousness, your love, your goodness and mercy toward us. And we wish you the very, very best as you go into this next phase of your life. God is not through with you yet.
Happy retirement, I guess. You're officially retired. I mean, I don't know when you will be watching this, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the friendship that you have offered me personally, as a fellow pastor, as a seminary student, as just a church member, right, at your church. So I still remember the first day we met and how you explained the difference between having Jesus as our Lord and as our Savior and as our Lord, and I definitely, it caught my attention. I knew that this guy knew something. So I want to thank you for welcome Alas de Águila into your life and opening your heart for the Hispanic culture to come into the church and into your life as well. So thank you for your support, for your encouragement to my years of seminary, and thank you for making possible opening the doors of Lee Street for Alas de Águila to blend in and be part of Lee Street as the Spanish-speaking service, right? Lee Street en Español. So on behalf of our congregation, we want to say muchas gracias, and we are going to miss you. We love you, and we will continue to pray for you. I personally want to thank you too, on behalf of my family and I. We will miss you, and we'll pray that you play a lot of golf, and that you go and do a lot of fishing, and that you give a piece of that basement to Elizabeth too. That new basement in your new condo, right? So I just want to say que el Señor te bendiga y te guarde, que el Señor te mire con agrado, que el Señor incline sobre ti su rostro y te muestre su paz. Muchas gracias, Pastor Ken.
Last year, one of our praise teams performed a song that I think speaks to Kent's work here at Lee Street. They were able to record it for us during COVID. Please listen.
Everybody has trials and temptations. Everybody knows heartbreak, isolation. But we can lay our burdens down. Lay our burdens burdens down. Everybody has fears, everybody got worries. Everybody knows sorrow, devastation. We can lay our burdens down. Lay our burdens down. Many at Lee Street have faced trials, job loss, kids leaving the church, broken marriages, sicknesses of many kinds. There have been temptations, greed, the internet, and everyday temptations of the world around us. You don't perform 145 funerals without many suffering heartbreak and isolation. Through all this, you have shown us that there is grace for us on every horizon. If we just bring our burdens down at the feet of our friend we have in Jesus. Kent, you have served your God well. You have served his church at Lee Street well. And for that, we thank you. So as we near the end of our celebration, we have a few gifts for the two of you. So if you would come up here now, both of you. Kent didn't give me direction on what to do tonight, and he didn't tell me what not to do tonight. This is the only thing that he really backed off on at all, is when we were collecting gifts. But I think you need to know that these gifts are a small token of the love and affection that we have for you, both of you, and for your work here. First off, we know you have a big condo project going on. Big projects, there are choices to make. Granite or quartz? Do we get the electric fireplace or don't we? Do we upgrade that saw in the basement? So we have a check in here for you to use toward your condo to hopefully make some of those decisions a little easier, or to make the either ors the one that you really want. Okay? A Elizabeth, we have for you a gift certificate to Country Needleworks for all those sit and stitch things that you do. Kent, we have a hang tag here from Pilgrim's Run. On the back of it, there's a tag. You have membership to the driving range for the rest of this year and all of next year to do some work on that game of yours. And then there is also a gift certificate in there that you can get 5 rounds at the pastor's rate during the week. We've also heard that you had a trip planned that got canceled, like many of us. So we have a book here, 50 States, 5,000 Ideas. And there's also Canada in here and a few pages on Prince Edward Island. So we have the book for you, and there's also a check in here for $500 for you to use for travel. There was some concern from one of your children that you would just get too busy and not travel. So we're going to check with you in a year and make sure that that $500 went to travel. Okay? Linda also made something for you that you probably shouldn't wear till after your service tomorrow. But we have a retired face mask. And then we have one more gift. This one, thanks to your daughters for coming up with the idea and getting this done in time for tonight. And that condo check is decisions for you guys to make. This one is one that we hope you'll find a place for in the condo so that when you see it, you'll have fond memories of your time here. It's a watercolor picture, hopefully we can get this up on the screen, of the church and the parsonage. And included in the check for the travel is some money to get this matted and framed, and maybe even a plaque for it. So we can talk about that later. All right? So did you want to say a few words? Maybe. Try? Okay, yeah.
Wow. First of all, so I don't cry right away, a couple of humorous things. And if Martin, if you are listening or watching, Martin just came home from the hospital yesterday after getting a new kidney. And he was on the kidney transplant list for a couple of years, and just on Wednesday of last week, or a week ago or so, went out for lunch with him, and we talked about his chances of getting a new kidney at his age and in his condition. And he said, I just doubt very much if that'll ever happen. And within a week, they called him because someone had passed away in Ann Arbor, and it was a perfect match for his body. And I praise God for that. Now, on the funny note, Martin, if you're listening, this will be the first time that I say this out loud to the whole congregation. The last thing I said to you when you were on my stoop was, I'm going to go around and get this truck out of here. You stay up here. And he didn't. And he paid for it. So there, Martin, take that. We did talk on Wednesday when we went for lunch. I said, I'm not going to ask you to help me move. So we're not going to do that again. I want to thank you very much for the gifts, for your love, for all those who spoke, for Scott for organizing this and putting so much work into this, and you singers who sang. there's so many people behind the scenes that have done so much. I'll say more in the sermon tomorrow. I fell in love with this sanctuary when I first walked into it. When Elizabeth and I and Molly walked into the basement for the first time on a Wednesday evening, for that Wednesday evening supper time, we walked in from this direction in the basement, and the Lee Street members were seated at long tables. I didn't know any of you, except a couple of guys that I golfed with. We walked through those doors, and all of you looked at us, and here's what I thought. What have I done? That was my first reaction, to walk into that room knowing that I was going to pastor this flock. And it's been such a privilege, an honor, to be your pastor. Al Hofstra was up on the screen early in this program, and he talked about being the man. Well, he wrote me a letter, and I still have it, along with the probably 1,000 or more cards that you folks have sent to us. And in that letter, Al Hofstra said on the back side of that letter, in capital letters, "You are the man." And that was a piece of taking this call to Lee Street, along with other things. I'll mention a couple of those tomorrow in the sermon. But it wasn't until a little bit later that I recognized that the only time those words are mentioned in the Bible is when Nathan says those to David. Yeah, after David had sinned, Nathan says, "You are the man." I don't think Al meant them that way. So it's been a privilege and an honor, and I thank you very much. We're going to enjoy some food outdoors. There's lots of things you could have roasted me on a lot worse than tonight, so I appreciate that. I will tell you, if you don't know this story, that on a Saturday night, our family rented the church basement for a Christmas program, or a Christmas party, and one of my nephews had one of these little electric airplanes, and we flew it downstairs, and it was my idea to come up here and fly it. My wife looked at me cross-eyed down the basement, but I did it anyway, and we went up to the balcony up there, and my nephews were up there, and I was down the floor here, and my nephew charged it, and he threw it out. It flew around twice, and then hit a beam over there and fell down, and I threw it back up, and he did it again, hit the same beam, and I said, "Move over." So I moved over, and it flew around once, and it hit that second light, fell down in it. And there was a silhouette on Saturday night of an airplane in that light. I then had to go tell my wife that we have a problem. Luckily, that same nephew worked for an electrician. We took a trailer, went and got scaffolding, took a pew out, went up there, got that airplane out before Sunday morning. Yeah, there's some other things you don't know about me. But thank you very much for coming. I think there might be some announcements about what to do and how to exit this place. Thank you for wearing masks. Thank you for obeying the rules. And I hope and pray that as we worship tomorrow, we will have joy in our hearts. There's much sadness along with this. We began grieving probably 2 months ago in a big way. I'm just thinking about all the history we have together. But we recognize that we're, like Pete said, it's not like we're saying goodbye forever. Elizabeth and I have decided we're going to stay away until Thanksgiving Day. We hope to worship with you on Thanksgiving Day, to be able to give Dan Mao a chance to pastor you. And our prayers and hopes will be with you in the future as the search team continues to work toward calling your next pastor. So So thank you very much. Elizabeth and I love you from the bottom of our hearts.
An overwhelming theme of Kent's message to Lee Street has been the grace of God. We sing a song here that talks of growing in that grace. Kent and Elizabeth, we'd like you to take your kids and grandkids and form a long oval in the center, facing the outer walls. Those of you from Lee Street who are able, we would like some of you to get out to the outside walls and across the front here so we can kind of encircle them while we sing this song. Done. And then a little bit of business. When we're done with the song, we're going to have Kent and his family exit through the back. And then everybody else, we're going to have exit through the back. Just take your time, keep your distances. Go down and then out here, there are 3 or 4 different serving tables for the wonderful food that you've been smelling the whole time you're here. But just take your time, wear your mask until you've got your food. And you'll be directed by Jack Paul back here as to where to go.